Okay, good afternoon, everybody. You're very welcome along to today's planning committee meeting. This is actually the December meeting, but we've brought it forward to the end of November. I'd just like Maura here to read the notice and the summons of meetings, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Planning Committee to be held in the Council Chamber, Guildhall, Derry on Wednesday, the 27th of November. Alderman Keith Carrigan. Thank you. Alderman Neary McMorris. Thank you. Alderman Janice Montgomery. She's here, is she? No. Councillor John Boyle.
He's just messaged to say he's running late. He should be here presently.
Okay. Councillor Caroline Devine. Thank you. Councillor Sean Fleming.
And Shaw.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
And Shaw.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson.
And Shaw.
Thank you. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Sure.
Councillor Patricia Logue. Thanks, Patricia. Councillor Sean Money. Councillor Patrick Murphy.
On Shaw.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Riley. Thank you. Councillor Grace O'Neill. Thank you. And that's, I'll just go back and double check. Alderman Janice Montgomery. Not online. No, that's it, Chair. Okay.
Thank you. Maura, I'm just going to read now the broadcasting statement. So I'd like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. And a copy of the council privacy notice may be found on the council website, www.derrystrabane.com. Can I ask at this stage if there's any declarations of members' interest? Councillor Riley.
Thanks, Chair. Item 4 on today's schedule, the application, I'll read out the reference number now, Chair. LA11.2024.0091.F. I live in Waterford Park and have for a number of years been supportive of social housing and developments at Caw. Because I've previously been in support of that site, I'll not take part in the item today. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Anybody else want to declare any interest? Or anybody online? No, if there is something that comes up during the meeting, sure, you can let me know. No? Okay, then moving on to Chair's business. First of all, we're going to go through the late items that were received, and I'll ask Maura to go through these, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members, you will have received a number of late items yesterday and quite a few today as well. So I just want to take time to run through this in detail. In terms of item number 1 on the agenda, we have received a letter of support from Councillor Paul Boggs, and that's in relation to just item number 1. Item number 3 on the agenda, we've received an email from Lower Strabane Residents Group, which you should have received yesterday. And today you will have received a response from the applicants in regard to a new drawing in relation to this case. I'll come back to that in a second, members, and I'll go through all the rest of the late items. In terms of item number 6, members will have received quite a few letters and pieces of information in regard to this particular case. In fact, you have received 10 pieces of information as a late item in this particular case. One is a letter of support from Orla Begley MP. Number 2, there's a letter of support from Declan McAleer MLA. Number 3 is an email from the agent with an attachment, which is a delegated application referenced. Number 4 is from a Mr. Higgins objection. Number 5 is from an Anne McBrien. Number 6 is from John Gormley objection, and 7 is Anne-Marie Breslin objection. Number 8, and only received literally within the last hour, is from the Woman of the Sperrins Group objection. And also you've received 2 PAC decisions from officers just recently in order to deal with this case. There have been some issues with possibly some of those pieces not getting through in the last sort of 15-20 minutes, but Anne is facilitating getting copies of those, anything that people have difficulty in seeing at this point, because we've literally just been receiving these while you've probably been on the move as well. So going back to item number 3, in regard to the information that's submitted, officers have considered the lead item, and in this instance, we require further consultation with Rivers Agency and an opportunity for officers to consider this further. And also, it has been indicated that there'll be further drawn possibly received from the agent at this point. So on that basis, the officers are recommending that we defer this application in order to ensure that we have the sufficient information and expert advice on the matter. So that's really all, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Does any of the council officers want to come in on the information received regarding item 3? Just before I put it to committee? No, it's okay. So members, we have a recommendation from the officers there to defer item 3, Mitchell Park. Councillor Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair. There has been quite a bit of late information in regards to item 3, and it was a thought, because we're going to defer this anyway, is there any inclination with officers a feeling for a site visit in regards to it, or are we content enough not with that? But because there's been a lot of to and fro there, a lot of late information in regards to that. There's a lot of information on what the Doors to Man Road residents have put in, and it's just the feeling would it be beneficial to try and slot on a site visit? I'm assuming you would be minded that this would seek to come back in the January meeting, will that be the second Wednesday in January? Because I'm just trying to get a time scale there. Have we time to do a site visit, or maybe there's no inclination towards it? But I just thought it may well be beneficial in my view. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Kerrigan. If I can just first of all get an indication across committee members. Are content to defer. And online, everybody content to defer?
Yes, Chair. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So a statement, Councillor Kerrigan, if you want to propose that, we'll put it to committee. That's no problem.
I'm content to propose it. I just think it might give us a wee bit more clarity on this application as well. And at least then, when there is a wee bit of confusion potentially in regards to drawings and having to be done again, the officers then can really relay to us then what exactly the layout will be on the ground.
Committee members, you content with that request for a site meeting? I just would say at this stage that I think we'd be better waiting until the new drawing is received, if that's fair enough.
Content with that. I just thought there was an opportunity, rather than it coming up at the January meeting and requesting a site visit after that. I just felt, and the interim, but I'm content until the drawing's received, but whatever you think yourself, Chair, but I wouldn't want to be requesting a site meeting and pushing this further down the line. I just thought we had an opportunity to get one in here, but maybe if there's not the time scale to get a drawing done between stage, so whatever, I'm waiting on a wee bit of advice there from officers.
Yeah, so we're going to be pursuing a new drawing and we'll also arrange a site visit. And I suppose, as you alluded there, this has been on a long time, this one, so the sooner we can get all these into place would be the better. Is there committee members all content with that? If you can give me an indication, please. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, members, what I want to do now, I want to just go over our running order, and then I want to give you some time to read through the late items to make sure everybody is content with the information that has been received over the last 24 hours or so. So the running order for today then will be numbers 1, 5, 6, 4, 2, 7, and 8. And so we'll take 5 to 10 minutes. We'll take 5 to 10 minutes now to give you an opportunity to read through the late items. Okay, thank you. Okay, members, hope you find that time useful, and if we come across a particular application and you're still not clear on what the late items are saying, or if you have any queries, we can deal with them. Okay then. So I'd like to invite Maura in again. She has an update here for us.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members, I just wanted to update you on the LDP plan strategy process. You know, we obviously are at the stage, I'm sure you're fully aware, that the actual strategy has been passed. The report, the PAC report, has been with DFI now some months, in fact, 6 months. We've received recently a request and invite to commence the fact check stage of the process, which is a 2-week process. So it's just to alert you to the fact that we are meeting DFI tomorrow, myself and Prunches. And we hope to hear more about our direction order tomorrow. So it's just to highlight, you'll hopefully see something from us before Christmas in terms of hopefully being able to update yourselves on the content of the direction order. And so it's just good news that we've got to this point. But if you just give us a few weeks, we'll hopefully be able to be in a better position to detail what the actual direction order says. Okay, thank you.
Has anybody got any questions on that? No, just to have myself welcome. We'll look forward to that. See how this is moving forward. Thanks for that, Maura. I've received nothing else under chairperson's business. So moving on to any matters arising from the open minutes of the Plan Committee meeting held on the 6th of November. No, thank you. So we'll move on now to the plan applications for consideration today. We'll start off. The first one will be presented by Laura, and this is LE11 Bar 2023 or 2137 RF Locknees Avenue, Ballymacquarie. Thank you, Laura.
Good afternoon, members. Application LE11 2023-2137F is an application for the retention of a change of use of a domestic property and stores identified as buildings 1 and 3 to use for commercial storage of furniture, which is Class B4 storage, and the address is 12 Locknees Avenue, Ballymacquarie, Strabane. The recommendation is to refuse. This application was deferred from the previous committee in November to allow for a site visit, which took place on the 18th of November. So this is the application site as outlined in red. It's located on the western side of Locknees Avenue. The site's the western portion of the curtilage of the dwelling at number 12 Locknees Avenue. It has a gravel surface and is occupied by a single-storey shed, which is building 1. And then there's a smaller single-storey building set at a right angle to the larger shed, which is building 3. Within the blue land, as identified in the site location plan, there's a dwelling with an additional two buildings, which are identified as well there on the drawings. The application site's located within the countryside. It's approximately 700 metres northeast of the small settlement of Clockor, and it's around 6 kilometres north of Strabane. Locknees Avenue itself is a minor dead-end road which accesses onto the A5 protected route. So this is the site layout, which as members that attended the site visit will know that the buildings here are already in situ as this application is for the change of use. So the buildings which are the subject of the application are buildings 1 and 3 as identified there within the red line. And then in the blue line then is the dwelling and a number of other buildings adjoining the residential dwelling. This is now separated from the application site. So this is just some photos of the buildings which are the subject of the planning application. So building 1, as you can see, is a corrugated steel shed. It has a ridge height of approximately 4.2 metres and a footprint of approximately 500 square metres. And it's located in the northeast of the site. Building 3 is a ridge height of approximately 5 metres and a footprint of 90 square metres and is located in the north of the site. Currently, these buildings are used for the storage of furniture. And just to note that both buildings 1 and 3 haven't been constructed in accordance with the approved plans. And similarly, both buildings are not accessible from the approved access on both of those applications, which is the domestic access to number 12 Lockneys Avenue. So this shows the access to the application site. So in terms of the plan on history, this relates to both history within the application site in the red is defined by the red line and the blue land. You can see that there's a club there for the domestic garage and stores, which was approved, an extension to the existing domestic garage, which was approved, and then another single story, 1.5 story extension and 1.5 story garage to the dwelling, which was also approved. In terms of consultation responses, environmental health have been consulted and don't have any objections to the proposal. DFI Roads note that the access is substandards, and they have proposed that the visibility displays will be improved to provide safe access onto Lockneys Avenue. There had been one representation received prior to the last planning committee. That was a letter of support that was received on the 5th of November from Councillor Paul Boggs, outlining support for the business at this location. So in terms of the policy framework, this is set out in the Strabane Area Plan, the SPPS Plan and Policy Statements 21, 4, 2, 3 and 15, and then their supplementary planning guidance, which is considered as well. So in terms of the principle of this development proposal, as stated, this application site is located in the countryside, so therefore policy PPS 21, policy CTY1 directs, allows for non-residential development and for industry and business uses in accordance with PPS 4. So PPS 4 sets out the policies for economic development uses, and policy PED 2, economic development in the countryside, directs consideration of this proposal to PED 3, the expansion of an established economic development use based on the information which is submitted with the proposal. So in terms of establishing the principle, this is set out under policy PED 3. So as stated previously, the buildings which are the subject of this application have been approved previously as domestic buildings ancillary to the use at the dwelling at number 12 Lockneys Avenue. Some evidence has been submitted during the processing of the planning application through photographs and invoices by the planning agent to try and demonstrate that an established economic development use exists at this property. So as you can see from the planning report, there are a number of invoices. I think there may be 30, but officers didn't consider that this is sufficient to demonstrate a continuous use for more than 5 years. So policy PED 3 allows for the expansion of an established economic development use. So this information was submitted to an attempt to demonstrate that an established use existed at the site. So there was also photos submitted which were taken from a mobile phone of some of the internals of the rooms in an attempt to demonstrate the buildings 4, 2 and 3 have been used by the applicant's business for the storage of furniture. Officers are unable to verify these photographs and we can't place any determinant weight on them. They appear to only show these buildings in 3 separate occasions over 2 years. There's no specific evidence to demonstrate that these buildings or the boxes and goods located within them are specifically related with the business. And on just 3 occasions, they don't demonstrate that the use has been ongoing for more than 5 years. So overall, in terms of PED 3, this information is considered insufficient to demonstrate that a lawful established economic development use existed at this location. So the business is known as Glen Keane Furnishings. It has a business address and a showroom at 37 Glendermot Road, which is in Derry, which is 16 kilometres from the application site. There's no information being submitted through the processing of the planning application to consider another suitable location within a nearby settlement, and officers considered that it's likely that an opportunity would exist to accommodate this B4 storage. And overall, the proposal isn't considered essential in this rural location. There is a separate legislative process for determining whether an existing use is lawful or not, and what this is set out in the Planning Act, and that's through the submission of a CLUD. In this case, we haven't received a CLUD for the application site or the adjoining blue land in respect of the use of the buildings for storage and distribution. And in the absence of a CLUD, no weight can therefore be attached to the argument that there's an established economic development use at this location. So overall, in terms of policy PED3 of PPS4, it hasn't been demonstrated that there's an established economic development use at the site. Therefore, the expansion of such can't be permitted. The proposal is contrary to policy PED3 of PPS4 and is not acceptable in principle. Again, so the proposal is not considered to be acceptable in principle. However, it's considered under the remaining policies in PPS4, PED9, which considers the general criteria for economic development, and then all our relevant plan and policy statements. So therefore, in terms of like compatibility and noise and amenity, it's considered that there won't be any adverse impacts from the proposal. In terms of natural heritage, so the site's not located within a designated area, and it's for the retention of a change of use. So therefore, the works have already taken place. So overall, it's considered that the operations from the site won't have any impact on designated sites. It is noted, however, that there are mature trees at the entrance to the application site, which DFI roads have indicated would need to be required to be removed to provide the visible display if it was put in place. But we haven't received any ecological information in this respect, so therefore the proposal is considered contrary to Part C of Policy PED9 and PPS2 in that respect. In terms of flood risk, there are no water courses directly abutting the site, and given the scale and nature of the development, a drainage assessment isn't required. So we're content that the proposal complies with PPS 15. So with regards to the access and parking, so the application site uses an access on Lochneys Avenue with existing domestic access to number 12 remaining. So DFI roads have considered this, and they have stated that whilst the application form and the TAF proposed that there's no intensification of the access is substandard and below the minimum criteria set out in PPS 3 and the DCAN 15. They advise that visibility displays of 2 by 45 and a forward sight distance have been determined to provide a safe access on Lochneys Avenue. So in terms of the sight lines, they're 2 by 60 to the south, which is existing in the critical direction. However, to the non-critical direction, they're currently 2 by 12, which would mean that the visibility display in this direction is extremely substandard. Also then, the TAF form submitted with the application states that one haulage lorry attends the site once every 3 weeks with 2 to 4 vehicle movements daily, Monday to Friday. As outlined in the report in recent weeks, officers has observed on 3 separate occasions a number of vehicles at the site, which is contrary to the TAF. Overall, it's been concluded that this is new access on Lochneys Avenue for this business use. Officers don't accept that it's been demonstrated that it's an existing access and there won't be any intensification. No evidence has been provided to demonstrate any exceptional circumstances which could be considered to permit the reduction in the visibility display. And therefore, overall, the proposal cannot provide a safe access in accordance with PPS 3 and Part G and H of Policy PED9. Just there as well, information submitted by the agent, they made the case that it's apparent from the photographic evidence that the access predates the construction of Building 1. However, officers have considered this. This is a retrospective proposal and it requires the access to be improved for road safety purposes. And in the absence of a CLUD, no weight can therefore be attached to the argument that there's an established economic development use at the location. And just overall to conclude in terms of PPS 3 and the access to the site, it can't be concluded that the proposal can provide a safe access in accordance with PPS 3. In terms of the layout, the design and integration and rural character, so this site is in the countryside. It's noted that the proposals for a change of use only, the buildings are already existing in site. We note that one of the buildings is has quite a significant footprint. It does have a low ridge height and is finished in materials which are typical of the building required for this use, and it's also set back from the road. Having considered the scale and height and nature of the building alongside the existing vegetation and setback from the road, officers are content that the proposal won't have an adverse impact. It's not overly prominent in the landscape and would therefore comply with the policies relevant to that in PED 9 and policy CTY 13 and 14 of PPS 21. So prior to planning committee today, we have received another letter of support which has been submitted to members as late information. I've just summarised the issues in that letter here on the slide in front of you. Most of these considerations have been considered in detail in the planning report, particularly in terms of the business use at this location. In terms of other comments on that, no specific evidence has been received to demonstrate that there will be a detrimental impact on the evidence or on the business during the processing of the application. We also haven't received any evidence which demonstrates that attempts have been made to look for other storage locations within the immediate area. And in terms of the access, we haven't received any amended plans which would demonstrate that the visibility display can be provided during the processing of the application or to date. So overall, just to summarise, so it hasn't been demonstrated that this retrospective proposal meets the policy tests as set out in PED 3 of PPS 4 for the expansion of an established economic development use in the countryside, and the proposal is not considered to be acceptable in principle. There's insufficient information to demonstrate the proposal won't prejudice the safety and convenience of road users due to the adequate visibility display, which is contrary to PPS 3 and PPS 4, and it hasn't been demonstrated that the development is likely to result in unacceptable adverse impacts in protected and priority species, which is contrary to policies NH2 and NH5 of PPS 2. And just overall, in terms of PPS 21 and policy CTY 1, there are no reasons why this proposal is essential in this rural location and couldn't be located within a nearby settlement. And refusal is recommended for the reasons as set out in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We have Una Given on behalf of the agent who's online. Are you online there, Una?
I'm here, Chair. Can you just confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. All right. Una, as you probably know, you have 5 minutes to do your presentation, and I'll let you know whenever you're about 4.5 minutes, and then I'll ask you to wrap up.
All right.
Go ahead. Thank you.
I will do well. Thank you. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Laura, and good afternoon, members. I've actually changed my presentation as Laura was speaking, so I'm pulling points together. On site, there are 2 existing garage type buildings which are being used for commercial storage and have been for the past 9 years or so. So it's those 2 buildings which this application seeks to expand under PPS 4. Laura has already given you the background of those 2 buildings. I'll just go straight to the notion of the long-term use of those buildings. We have submitted 30 invoices demonstrating that furniture has been delivered to 12 Knocknease Avenue from between 2015 and 2024. Now, those invoices are commercial invoices. They're specifically related to Mr. Aiken's furniture business. Now, Laura made the point that his business address is actually in Glendermot Road in Derry, and that might well be the case, but that does not disprove the fact that you could still have a storage facility located elsewhere. All of the invoices, the 30 that we submitted, they all have 12 Knocknease Avenue as being the delivery address for the furniture. That level of furniture delivered over and over again could only be for commercial purposes. We also supplied 2 photographs. I'm not clear why the planners say that they can't verify them and why they wouldn't simply accept them at face value. An inspection of the 2 original garage type buildings would confirm that they are used for commercial storage of furniture. And if the planning department has no interest in closing down the established use, then to me it is disingenuous to refuse planning permission for the expansion. There's also no planning policy requirement that you must have a certificate of lawfulness for any previous development. And, regardless of that, the planning team were quite happy to entertain any evidence that we had put in as part of the application, regardless of any certificate of lawfulness. If members find that the planning permission may be granted under PED 3 of PPS 4, then the first and second reasons for refusal would fall. I'll turn now to the access. The site has its own access, which was previously known to the planning department as it is specifically referenced at a planning decision dating from 2019. The existing access has always been used for the business since 2016. DFI roads confirmed that sight lines to the south are in situ and that these are the critical sight lines. On average, 2 vans visit the site each morning, Monday to Friday, and about once every 3 weeks there's a haulage vehicle. But the fact that the planning department saw 4 vans on site on 2 occasions does not contradict the evidence that we provided. We said that there's 2 vehicles arriving at site daily on average. There's no increase in traffic as a result of the proposal, and that is not contested by road service. As there's no intensification in the use of the existing access as a result of the proposal and no material change in terms of how it is used, then road safety is not prejudiced, and so there's no basis under policy PPS 3 for seeking the removal of 2 mature trees from inside the sight lines in the non-critical direction. The same then issue applies in terms of impact on wildlife. If there's no reason to take those 2 sycamore trees down, there'd be no reason for an ecologist report. There's also the fallback position for the applicant in that if permission is refused, he will continue to use the 2 original garage buildings for his business and continue to use the access. If absolutely need be, he is willing to take the trees down, but I really do not think that is necessary considering there's no change to the use of the access. In summary, this proposal is to expand on an established business. It will use existing buildings, one of which already has the appearance of a commercial building. There's no harm to the environment or to residential amenity or to road safety. The volume of traffic attending the site is already very low and will not increase as a result of the proposal. In the absence of demonstrable harm, we believe that planning permission ought to be granted. Ladies and gentlemen, that completes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions, and I appreciate I was talking very quickly as well. So again, happy to clarify anything.
Okay, thank you, Una, for that. Over to members, if you any questions for Una there, please. Councillor Needles.
Just to clarify, this proposal is the retention of change of use of a domestic property. The agent was speaking about expansion there. Can I just get that confirmed?
Yes.
Did you go on ahead on it?
Yes, it is both expansion of and retention of. There is what we believe an existing business in 2 small garage type buildings that are on the site, and we believe those are established. And then we are expanding on that there by putting the storage business into a large building that he has on the site, which is a certificate of lawfulness for. And there's also a little bit of expansion in terms of one of the garages. He has his business inside an extension to one of the garages as well. So it is retention of as well, because the development has already taken place. He's already using the 2 buildings that are the subject of this application for commercial use.
Thank you. And does that deal with your queries, Councillor Needles? Any further questions from anybody? Councillor Devine.
So the report says that DFI Road says that the current access is substandard. And yet the agent has said it's not. So I suppose, I would just like her comments on that, and also the fact that no CLUD has been submitted.
Um,
Go ahead, Una.
No, I don't think I actually said emphatically that it was not substandard. The sightlines are in situ in one direction. Coming out of the site on the right-hand side, in other words, going south towards the main Strabane to Derry Road, those sightlines are in place, and in fact, they're in excess of what has been recommended by road service. The sightlines in the opposite direction, going north, they are not in situ, they are below the requested standard, but that has been described by DFI Roads in the response as being the non-critical direction. In terms of the CLUD, there is no legal requirement that anybody have a CLUD, and the planning department has cannot compel anybody to make a CLUD. It's not the same as planning permission, whereas if you carry out development without planning permission, the planning department can compel you to make an application for planning permission under the scope of the legislation, but they can't do that for the purposes of a CLUD, and there's no legal requirement that anybody have a CLUD. The point that I have made in my supporting statement that went in with the plan application and in terms of my presentation here today is that we have provided evidence as part of this application that in my view is material to the consideration, that shows that there is an established use. And over the course of the planning application, the planning officers were quite happy to entertain that information. So, I am a bit concerned that they would say then in their presentation today that they'd make an issue of the fact that there's no CLUD, when they were quite happy to study the evidence that we provided and in fact actually ask us for more evidence. And the other point that I wanted to make as well is that I don't know if the planning officers have been inside the two small garage type buildings, which we are saying have been used all along for the business. I trust that they have, but the business is continuing in those buildings. Those two buildings are not subject of this application. And if the planning office, they've had this application since last year, if they're not prepared to take enforcement action against the business that's happening in the two older buildings, then that's really all that matters. It doesn't matter that there's no CLUD. If you have a business that is on the site and there's no prospect of it going away, then why then would you refuse it planning permission if your application otherwise met all the other criteria under PED 3?
Thank you, Una. Any further questions? Councillor Mooney, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just to go back to the CLUD, I don't think that was answered sort of substantially. Now, the question that I would be asking is just why did the applicant not apply for a CLUD, given that it's given that the application is under the Planning Act as well. So I just would like a bit more information as to, I can understand where the agent has gone and given her reasons, but just for myself, why was that not availed of? Is there any information that can be given? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Una.
Sir, that's not something that I explored with my client. It is something that he is free to do if he wishes. From my point of view, there's no obligation for anyone to make a CLUD. There's absolutely no requirement, and you can't compare it to applications for planning permission where there is a legal requirement and there is a provision within the legislation to compel somebody to make a planning application. You're not compelled to have a certificate of lawfulness for any development that is long established. It's really for the planners to decide, are they going to take enforcement action against it? And if they're not going to take enforcement action against it, then that business or that development is material consideration in my view.
Thank you, Una. Councillor Rooney.
No, I think the answer was that the agent has no instructions, so on that regard, so thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions for Councillor O'Neill?
Just in terms of the visibility splice in the non-critical direction, now I was at the site visit, and the sightline was extremely substandard in my opinion. I couldn't see out one side when I was leaving the premises. So has there, obviously this is something that DFA Roads has made the applicant aware of. Is there a plan to improve the disability splice on that side?
Go ahead, Una.
As part of this application, we have shown the applicant, the access to be retained as it is on the ground. Now, that does not mean that Mr. Aiken is not open to discussion on that there. And the reason is because as part of this proposal, there's no intensification in the use of the access. We're of the view that Mr. Aiken has been using that access since at least 2016, and he's always been using it for business purposes. The access goes directly up to one of the second of the garage type buildings, and you can't actually get to that garage from the domestic access. And then when you couple that with the fact that he has all the evidence of the deliveries to the site, it stands to reason that that access has been used for commercial reasons or commercial purposes. Now, the volume of traffic that has been visiting the site over the years, it's not a big number to begin with, but Mr. Aiken has advised me that since he's been using that site over the years, the volume of traffic has actually has gone down because he uses his sheds for more longer term storage of furniture, and there isn't the same, going back and forth. If as a result of this proposal, there's no actual increase in the volume of traffic, or there's no change in the terms of how the access is used, to expect the applicant to improve the sight lines would actually be extended beyond the development which has been granted planning permission. And as a planning condition, it would be an unreasonable planning condition, and it would not meet the legal tests, because it's got nothing actually to do with the development that's been granted, because the development that has been granted has no actual impact on the safety of the access, because the volume of traffic is not going to change. Sorry, that went on a wee bit. If you need clarification or if I haven't answered it right, come back to me.
Okay, thank you, Una. Anything further? Anybody online has any questions for Una? Alderman Kerrigan, question here for Una.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. From my, in regards to the question that's just been asked there, from my reading of it there, what you're effectively saying is, although this is a change of use, maybe I'm picking this up incorrectly here, although this is a change of use here, this what's been sought here, you're just really stating that these vehicles are travelling in and out of this entrance anyway, and effectively there's going to be no additional vehicles. Again, I was on the site visit as well, and the visibility is poor to what you'd say on your left hand side. They're going back up the dead end road. But again, even if effectively then this entrance has been used for a number of years, and there's going to be no additional or reduction in the number of vehicles then effectively using this entrance. So that's just you do take on board that the visibility is poor to that section, but it's the case that there's going to be, it has been used for a number of years, and there's no increase or decrease in regards to this application. So I'm assuming, but I'm not putting words into your mouth, but I'm assuming that's effectively just what your rebuttal is in regards to the third refusal reason, because I mean key factor is here we have 4 refusal reasons, and in regards to the visibility display as the third one.
Go ahead.
Sir, Councillor Kerrigan has interpreted that correctly.
Thank you, Una. Any further questions then for the agent? No, Una, thank you for attending today.
Thank you.
Okay, members, does anybody have any questions for any of the officers on this one? Go ahead, Councillor Lenis.
Thanks. It's just regarding what the agent said about the entrance in 2019, that it was part of a previous report. Can you give us shed any light on that?
Thank you, councillor, through the chair. The approved certificate of lawful development was for the domestic property, and the entrance as shown at that time was through the domestic dwelling entrance, which is further to along the dead end roadside of the site.
Anything further than that? No. Anybody else any questions for Alderman Kerrigan?
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. Just a query in regards to the invoices there, and why have they not been deemed as an acceptable evidence that this has been used as business premises? Just your comments on it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, councillor, through the chair. So as we've summarised in the report in table 1, okay, we've summarised the number of invoices. And we've said the receipts detail the business address is 37 Dermot Road with delivery address to 12 Lochneys Avenue, which is domestic property. An assessment of the invoices concludes that there's only been 1 delivery in 2015 and 2016, 2 deliveries in 2017, 8 deliveries in 2018, 2 deliveries in 2020, 2 deliveries in 2021, and 3 deliveries in 2022, and 8 deliveries in 2023, and 4 in 2024. So if we were looking at something, if we had an existing club and we were looking at something being lawful on the site, we would need to see that it's been continually and regularly used for more than 5 years. The information that has been submitted, that we have assessed, we don't feel certify or sort of is determining weight in terms of material consideration that there's an established business in relation to the storage at the site.
Turn to that, Alderman. Is anybody online any questions here for any of the officers? No. So members, so we have a recommendation from the officers to refuse this particular application, and just hand it over to yourselves if you have any further comments or anybody wishes to make a proposal on this one. Thank you. Alderman Kerrigan, do you?
Chair, in regards to the 4 refusal reasons, let me see if I can find my wee point for forgot my book. I would be minded in regards to the first refusal reason that there's no overriding reason why this application is essential in this rural location. I am minded that in regards to the rural remainders demand area plan 123.2.3, that the proposal for non-residential development of the rural remainder will continue to be considered under the criteria outlined previously, stating that in general terms the economic or jobs gain benefit of such development will be balanced by the department against other planning factors such as the proximity of alternative urban locations. So I would be minded that there is an argument for against the first refusal reason. In regards to the second refusal reason, I understand where Suzanne has came from there in regards to the invoices there, and there's not the level of invoices. I am slightly disappointed there, and the occasion has passed now in relation to the agent stating that there was I believe it was stated that there was a large vehicle making deliveries once a week, and I did feel that there should be additional information in regards to invoices or delivery dockets or something in that regard. I don't know if that vehicle is theirs or not, but I do feel that there may well be items delivered to the Glendermot Road, and then, as it has been stated, there are vans which are there at least twice daily. So I am minded that it may well be the case that storage is there, but it is the business's own vans. But I do feel there is a weight. The level of invoices, I feel, does provide enough weight that it is not for personal domestic use, and I do feel that there is an element there that could be deemed as that it's business use. So I do feel that there is an argument against the second refusal reason due to the invoices there. I'm not fully content, but I do feel that there's enough in it for me to argue against that. In regards to the third refusal reason, Chair, what states that that the proposal would have permitted prejudice the safety and convenience of road users, since proposes using existing entrance which visibility cannot be provided to an adequate standard. I'm content if officers are deemed and a condition needs to be placed on that. This entrance has been used continually for a number of years, and this business has continued here for a number of years. So there has been vehicles in and out of this access. So if officers feel an appropriate condition in regards to the tree, yes, I have the same concerns as Grace here. But I feel that the entrance has been existing, has been used. So I feel that access there issue is maybe passed due to the fact that it's been a continually used entrance. And in regards to the fourth refusal item, that it's contrary to NH2 and NH5, PPS2, in regards it's not been demonstrated that proposed development is not result in unacceptable adverse impacts on protected or priority species and habitats. Effectively has been stated by the agent there. This site has been used continually for a good number of years there. Should it be 2015, should it be 2016 or 2017? Since that, this site has been continually used, and we don't have information in regards to the difficulty on priority species or habitats there, that it has been continually used. If officers feel that a condition needs to be placed on that, but I feel that the level of activity will not increase or decrease whether we grant this permission. So I do feel that argument is null and void. But I feel that I have put forward reasons against the four refusal reasons, Chair, and so propose it.
So on McKay, and just that I have this right, you're proposing to overturn the officer's decision with a condition on number 3.
Well, if officers deem that there are appropriate conditions on any of the points, I'm content to work with officers in that, Chair.
Do we have a seconder for that proposal? Morris? I would like to come in on this, please.
Chair, just discussing with officers there, if members are minded that this is an application which would merit an approval and to go against the officer recommendation in relation to the matter, it is the position of officers that we would require amended plans, etc., in relation to showing that. Now, I know the agent made some comments in relation to that, but it would be our view that those would be required. Might I suggest, members, that the recommendation that comes forward from this committee is that members indicate that they're minded to approve this matter subject to amended plans being sought, and that the matter be delegated back to officers to consider on that basis. If we don't receive those amended plans, satisfactory amended plans, then we'll bring the matter back before this committee again for further consideration. But if we receive satisfactory amended plans, then we'll just deal with it under delegated authority.
Chair, I'm content with that. Has Philip a timescale for that he would prefer that included in for the amended plans to return as well? Appropriate timescale?
It would really be a matter for the agent to get those to us as quickly as possible. As soon as they come in, certainly if we haven't received them within a number of planning committee meetings and it looks like it's going nowhere, we'll bring it back to you.
As a secondary, you're content with that now as well, yeah? Okay, members there, we have a proposal there and we're going to bear in mind the information that Philip has added there to the proposal, and I want to put it to a vote now, and I'll ask Maura to take a vote, please.
Thanks, Chair. Members, this is item 1 and the proposal is not to accept the officer's recommendation to approve, to refuse. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Maura.
Alderman Neil McMorris. Thank you. Councillor John Boyle was not here. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Caroline Devine.
Ta.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that. Thank you. Councillor Sean Fleming. Thank you. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
Abstain, Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Councillor Fergal Leonard. Okay. Councillor Patricia Logue.
I'm going to go. I was not at the site visit, and before the advice of the city solicitor on the need for, these plans have to be recommended, and I think it's critical that the agent engage and follow the conditions. So I will say yes.
Thanks. Councillor Sean Mooney. Okay. Councillor Patrick Murphy. Okay. Councillor Martin Riley.
4.
Okay. Councillor Grace O'Neillis.
Subject to those conditions, Ta.
Okay. That's it. 2 abstentions, Chair, and the rest are 4. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Maura, and thank you, members, for discussion on that. Okay, we're going to move on to number 5. And Rosie will be taking this one. It's LA 11, bar 2023, bar 1671, bar F, Barnes Court Road in Newton Stewart. Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 5 is LA 11 2023 1671F. This is a Section 54 application to vary Condition 1 of LA 11 2016 582F and J 2006 1066F to allow for the extension of time for extraction at a quarry from 26th of February 2024 until the 26th of February 2031. And this is on lands 220 metres northeast of 30 Barnes Court Road, and the recommendation is to approve. So members, this slide just shows the site location, and the aerial photograph there on the right shows the location of the quarry. And we have an operational quarry also across the road, this is the Barnes Court Road here. So there's a number of public roads in the vicinity. The Barnes Court Road, the Drumlegger Road, Gulf Road, and then Deer Park Road is to the north, and Mattercolton Road is further to the west. So this is the area that is the subject of the application, and it's served by an existing lane. This photograph is just taken from Drumlegger Road, looking back towards the quarry, and you can see that there's the boundaries of the quarry here are quite steep. So the extraction area is down behind this area of high ground. And the slide again, the quarry area, the extraction area is on the lower ground behind this steep area to the right, and this shows the access to the site from Drumlegger Road. So the extraction has commenced on site under a series of earlier approvals, and the lands to the east of the extraction area, these lands have already been restored and returned to agricultural use. So permission is now sought to quarry remaining reserves for a period of 7 years. As this quarry extracts sand and gravel, there's no requirement for blasting. So the material will be extracted by mechanical excavators, or a digger essentially. And in terms of any on-site processing, a dry screening plant will be located on site as per earlier approvals. And this processing equipment and then any stockpiles of material that are extracted will be located on the floor of the quarry before it's transported off site. And then it's proposed to restore and return the site to agricultural use once extraction ceases. So the policy framework is set out here, members, just in summary in this slide, and it's detailed in the report before you. In terms of consultation, we have generally no objection, subject to conditions where these are relevant. There's been 2 objections received, one on the basis of road safety and requesting that the access is made safe. DFI roads have been consulted, and we'll come back to that later in the presentation. And the other objection was in respect of being able to obtain insurance for a house, home insurance for a house, and it was requested that no blasting is permitted on site, and that advice has been provided that there's no blasting required on this site. So in terms of the matters that are material to the application, again, with visual amenity, we've had a look at the slides. So from the surrounding road network, due to this higher ground around the site and intervening hedges and trees, there's no public views of the extraction area from any of the public viewpoints. And because, again, all the stockpile, there'll be no stockpiles anywhere but within the quarry void. We've considered economic benefit under the policies, and as this application is seeking additional time to quarry remaining reserves of sand and gravel, the agent advises that quarrying didn't resume under earlier approvals as the quarry had changed hands, and this took time to complete, and then COVID and the pandemic resulted in a downturn in business activity. So demonstrating we're content that there's an economic benefit given the earlier approvals on site and that there are reserves remaining. In terms of environmental protection, in respect of any impact on European designated sites, the nearest waterway is 600 metres from the boundary of the site, and that would be to a tributary of the River Foyle. As there's no hydrological link between the site and this SAC, there's unlikely to be an impact on it. In respect of protected and priority species and habitats, consideration has been given to the impact of quarrying on trees, bats, sand martins, badgers and otters, and NED was consulted for comment. NED has accepted that because this is for an extension of time and there's no extension to the quarry area and there's no requirement for tree felling, that there's no requirement for any further bat surveys on site. Sand martins have been known to nest within the sand faces that are exposed within the quarry. And under the 2016 application, that's LA 11 2016 0582, there was a variation to the condition requiring that before any works would take place during the bird breeding season, that the site is surveyed for sand martins being there. So we would recommend that that condition is repeated on this application if approval is granted. The applicant's ecologist found no evidence of badgers or otters on the site, so NED is satisfied subject to conditions. In respect of any impact on surface water, again, as I say, there's no water courses anywhere near the site, the nearest one being 600 metres away, so there's no possibility of any runoff of sediment-laden water to a water course. And as the substrate's permeable, there'd be percolation of any rainwater within the site, and there's no requirement for settlement lagoons. In respect of groundwater, in accordance with earlier approvals, the quarrying depth will remain above the water table. So officers are satisfied the quarrying operations can be undertaken without detrimental impact to the environment. In respect of safety, to ensure that the quarrying operations continue to be carried out safely, officers are recommending that conditions that were placed on the earlier approvals are repeated in this application in respect of the direction of working, and that there is a 5 metre buffer to lands outside the ownership of the operator or the control of the operator, so there'll be no quarrying within 5 metres of the boundary of the site. In respect of residential amenity, we've had an updated noise impact assessment requested by Environmental Health. And this details the equipment to be used on site, the operations to be undertaken and the hours of operation. And the noise impact assessment demonstrates that the activities can be undertaken within the industry standard noise limits, and a condition to that effect is recommended. In respect of dust, an updated dust management plan was also submitted, and it provides predictions that disamenity due to dust at the nearest residential receptors will be negligible based on mitigation measures, including the storing of stockpiles of excavated material within the quarry void, so that the walls of the quarry, which are higher than the surrounding lands, would provide protection from wind. There'll be water suppression system at the processing area and to dampen the roadways with a wheel wash quite near to the quarry entrance. In respect of traffic generation, the access is existing onto the Drumlegger Road, and that will continue to be used. And as I stated earlier, there was an objection requesting that access be upgraded. DFA Roads were consulted and asked to comment on the letter of objection, and they have advised that as the quarry has planning permission, they accept that it isn't to standard, but advise that because the quarry has permission and there's no record with the PSNI regarding accidents or collisions near this access or because of it, DFI Roads has no objection. Given our respective traffic movements, the agent has advised that as a conservative estimate, there would be 4 trips per hour, equating to 48 trips in over a 12-hour working day. But he goes on to advise that it's more likely that there would be only 20 trips per day, given the number of HGVs available to the applicant. So members, in conclusion, the application to extend the operational period for extraction from an existing quarry has been assessed against the relevant planning policies. The consultees have no objection to the development proceeding as proposed, subject to conditions, and officers have considered the supporting information submitted to the consultation responses received, the letters of representation, and conclude that subject to conditions, the continued extraction of sand and gravel from the quarry until the 26th of February 2031 is acceptable, and approval is recommended subject to the conditions set out in the report before you. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Rosie. We have Gavin McGill, the agent online. Gavin, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, Gavin, as you know, you have 5 minutes to address the committee, and coming up to that time, I'll give you a shout and ask you to wrap up. Go ahead then.
Thank you. I won't be taking my full 5 minutes, Chair. I just want to say we fully welcome the recommendation of the Planning Office to approve permission. Thank Rosie for her presentation, and I'd just really like to be available for any questions should any members have any.
All right, members, has anybody got any questions for Gavin? Has anybody online any questions for Gavin? Carrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. I'm just in regards to the application. I know this is as an extension of previous approvals there, but maybe it's not within your remit there. But has there been any engagement, I suppose, in relation to the objectors, who I assume are nearby residents there? And also there was potential, or maybe I don't see it in the pack here, but there was potential of another entrance, because I'm assuming, and I stand to be corrected here, is the weighbridge and the property across the road. So will the lorries have to exit the site and then cross the end of the Barnescourt Road and go on then to the quarry that is used as well by the applicant to the weighbridge, or will there be that facility placed in that site? It's just getting clarity, because there was, I remember hearing this before, there was some talk in the country anyway that there would be a straight across the site, but it doesn't seem to be in this application, so maybe that was just talk at the time. So just a wee point of clarification on that. Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, Gavin.
Yes, thank you for the question. In terms of engagement, there's been no direct engagement with the third party. Everything's been through the Planning Office. So, for example, the point about no blasting that was requested, that has been agreed through the Planning Office. So, while there's been no direct engagement, we've certainly taken on board the comments of the third parties. Just in terms of the access and the weighbridge, we've sought to replicate what's gone on before here to the best of our ability. There is a weighbridge on the opposite side of the road, and there is an intention to use that. So there will be a small amount of crossover, but in this case, the trip generation is very low, and DFI roads have no objection. So we felt that was an acceptable arrangement.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for Gavin? Anybody online? No further questions. Gavin, thank you for attending today.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any questions for officers, please? No, there doesn't seem to be. Oh, sorry, Alderman Carrigan.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I'll ask the officers now. Was that ever going to be a consideration in regards to the weighbridge? I mean, the vast majority of these lorries, the lorry might be filled, but then you're going to the weighbridge effectively then, and would that not have been a factor that should have been included in the application? Because that's going to be, yes, there's the extension of this here, that this has to be dug out and quarried out, but there very seldom is that the lorry loads just away and is often then taken to the weighbridge to see the weight then and then taken on then to individual sites wherever. I'm just querying, well, should that not have been factored in, that journey or that element would be included in this planning application? But maybe I'm off on this, Mark, but just because I feel that the vast majority of these trips will exit that site, and on figure 1 on the site location map, where it enters out onto the Duniga Road South, will enter there onto the Barnscourt Road and travel there, and at the extreme right of your diagram, there's an entrance on there into the quarry on the far side of the road. And I thought that this will be sort of near enough every lorry will be in and out of there. Now, maybe I'm standing wrong, but I thought, is that not under consideration regarding the application? Just out of interest. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Rosie, do you want to go ahead with that?
Yes, thank you through the chair. I suppose this application is for the variation of condition 1 of a previous approval. Now, I'm not aware that that previous approval had details on saying that there was going to be a crossover and the weighbridge on the other quarry to be used. So if that wasn't part of the earlier approval for this quarry, then that would be a new development. This application, whilst it's a section 54, grants a new permission, but simply to vary the one condition that they're asking to vary, which is to extend the length of time, basically for them to quarry out the development. So it doesn't change the nature of what was previously approved.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Anybody online? No. Okay, members, the recommendation there from Rosie that this application is approved. So I'll pass it over to yourselves for any further comment on the proposal if possible. Councillor Ray, go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, happy to propose the recommendation from officers to approve.
Councillor Boyle, second. Thank you. Can we go to the vote on that, please, Maura?
Thanks, Chair. Members, this is item 5. This is a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation to approve. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
I'll abstain on this one, Mark.
Okay. Alderman Neary McMorris. Okay. Councillor John Boyle. Okay. Councillor Caroline Devine. Okay. Councillor Sean Fleming. Thank you. Councillor Paul Gallagher. Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Thank you. Councillor Fergal Leonard. Thank you. Councillor Patricia Logue. Thank you. Councillor Sean Mooney. Thank you. Councillor Patrick Murphy. He's online. Councillor Murphy. Thank you. Councillor Martin Riley. Thank you. Councillor Grace O'Neillis.
I had to leave the room, so abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. It's two abstentions and the rest 4 chairs. That.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And that application has been approved. Moving on to number 6. Proposed 5-numbered glamping pods, associated site works, Carrickane Road, Dunnamana, and Laura will be taking us through this one. Thank you, Laura.
Application LA11 2023-1560/F is an application for 5 glamping pods and associated site works located approximately 480 metres southeast of 88 Carrickane Road, Dunnamana, and the recommendation is to refuse. So here we have the application site as outlined on the red line. The application site is located within an area of peatland on the foothills of the Sperrin Mountains. The application site also includes an access lane there running from the main part of the application site. This lane serves dwellings and a farm at 86 and 88 Carrickane Road. And the site's located within the countryside and the AOMB, approximately 6 kilometres northeast of Plumbridge. So this is just an image of the application site. It rises and extends to the southeast, running parallel to an open water course before reaching the southern part of the site, which is crescent shaped. The bog on which the site is located is enclosed in by a post and wire fence, and there's no other vegetation there on the site. So this is the part of the site from where the new access lane crosses through the farm and into the adjoining land. There's a copse of coniferous trees approximately 100 metres to the west of the new access lane and approximately 200 metres northwest of the proposed pods. So this is the layout that's been submitted with the planning application. So there are 5 pods located along a new laneway that includes parking areas and hawthorn hedge planting there as indicated on the drawing. So this is just a slide which shows the elevations and the floor plans of the glamping pods. As you can see there, they have a bedroom and living area with kitchen facilities and a bathroom. The pods are approximately 30 square metres and approximately 3.8 metres in height, and they're proposed to be finished in timber cladding with black corrugated roofs. In terms of the policy set out in the planning report, this application was assessed under the Strabane Area Plan and the SPPS, and then the planning policy statements, which include 21, 16 to 3, 6 and 15, and then the supplementary planning guidance there, building and tradition. So during the processing of the application, there was 1 letter of support received and 5 letters of objections. So these are considered in detail in the planning report. Prior to committee today then, we received 2 letters of support which have been submitted to members for consideration, and also an email from the planning agent. So with regards to the application cited by the planning agent, just to clarify that this proposal was assessed under policy TSM6, where there's no requirement to be located within a tourist amenity. Since that approval, there's been clarification through a planning appeals. The policy TSM5 is the relevant policy assessment, which is what we have assessed this application under. And just in terms of policy CTY 11, that other application as well was cited adjacent to the existing buildings on the farm, which is unlike the current proposal. And just there in terms of the letters of support, no other substantive information has been submitted to us in terms of any economic improvements that would be as part of this planning application. So that information just has been submitted there for members to consider. Then there's been another further 5 letters of objection, I think most of which were just received today. I've just kind of summarised those there briefly in the slide. Just that there is a Sperrins AONB management plan, which has raised the need to protect the Sperrins AONB from appropriate and damaging developments, the visual impact of the proposed pods in the landscape, the community interest in safeguarding this landscape, again, concerns relating to the AONB, the precedent that approval of this application could set, and that this application is contrary to local and regional planning policies. In terms of them letters of objection, which consider the impact on the AONB and any other planning policy, that has all been considered in detail in the planning report, which is before members today. So just to move on, there's been a number of consultations taking place in this application, subject to conditions and submission of information. The consultees are content with the application site and don't have any objections to the proposal. So the application, it's obviously in the countryside, so PPS 21 is the relevant planning policy in the first instance under which this application has been assessed. So the applicants did make a farm diversification proposal, which is assessed then under policy CTY 11 of PPS 21. So there's a number of criteria set out in CTY 11 which you're required to meet. So the first there is that the farm or forestry business is currently active and established, and officers are content that that criteria is satisfied. In terms of character and Part B and scale, it's appropriate its location. So as I mentioned previously, the site's in an area of open peat bog on the foothills of the Sparrow Mountains with no surrounding vegetation other than that copse of trees, which is located there in those images. The proposed pods in this site wouldn't be provided with any screening or integration. There are 4 rows of hawthorn hedge to be planted between the pods, but officers do not consider that this would either integrate or screen the development. And furthermore, PPS 21 is clear that new planting alone is not considered sufficient for integration purposes. And given the kind of stark nature, you know, of this application site on the side of that hill, officers consider that any planting proposed or landscaping would actually appear more conspicuous and out of place in the landscape. And even despite the relatively small scale of the structures, the site of the development and its access lane, which is 450 metres long, will be openly visible in the landscape from Carricane Road, where the development is elevated on the side of the exposed hill with no existing vegetation or landscape features to integrate the development. So officers don't consider that that criteria is satisfied. And in the same instance, the proposal isn't considered to comply with policy CTY 13, as well as policy NH6 of PPS 2 and CTY 14 of PPS 21. Then policy CTY 11 also considers any impacts on natural or built heritage. So the proposal won't have any impact on designated sites for protected and priority species and habitats. It won't have any impact on built heritage. But as we've also assessed, this development is within the Sparrow AONB, and it's not sympathetic to the character or the appearance of this particular area within the AONB, and is therefore contrary to criteria C of CTY 11 in that respect. In terms of amenity, which is considered under Part D, given the separation distance between the proposed application site and any nearby properties, there's not going to be any impacts there on amenity, so criteria D is satisfied. Just to summarise in terms of policy CTY 11 as well, this proposal doesn't, it requires that, you know, where possible, the reuse or adaptation of existing farm buildings is used. This proposal doesn't propose any use of existing farm buildings. CTY 11 also allows a new building where there are no existing buildings available to accommodate the proposed use. Officers consider that the existing farm buildings will be unsuitable for glamping pods, but the exception of CTY 11 permits only one single building, and clearly this application is for 5 new buildings, therefore it doesn't meet the exception in CTY 11. So overall, the new buildings are not satisfactorily integrated with an existing group of buildings, which is also required under CTY 11. The site is clearly separated from the existing farm buildings and can't be considered to be located adjoining or nearby or integrated with them. So this is also a tourism proposal, which is assessed then under PPS 16. As I stated previously, policy TSM5 is the appropriate policy for assessing such applications. In terms of TSM5, the criteria which potentially this application could meet is Part B there, a cluster of 3 or more new units provided at or close to an existing or approved tourist amenity that is or will be a significant visitor attraction in its own right. So this application, yes, it's located within the AONB, but PPS 16 defines both the tourist amenity and a tourist asset. So the AONB is considered to be a tourist asset and not a tourist amenity. So therefore, in terms of being located at or close to an existing tourist amenity, this proposal, the AONB can't be considered in terms of that criteria. The agent does state that the glamping pods will be an asset for existing walkers and hikers and visitors to nearby tourist attractions. We've categorised those in the planning report and the tourist assets and tourist amenities. And we've noted that the nearest tourist amenity is Barron Top Fun Farm, which is approximately 8.5 miles away. And this isn't considered to be close for the purposes of policy TSM5. So therefore the proposal doesn't comply with part B of policy TSM5. So just in terms of policy CTY 11 and TSM 5 of PPS 16, it's clear that the proposal is not acceptable in principle at this location. There then are a number of general criteria which is set out to PPS 16 and policy TSM 7. And in terms of these criteria, these are design criteria which tourism developments shall be subject to. In terms of Part C, as we've already assessed, the boundary treatments or means of enclosure, including the rows of hawthorn hedge, are inappropriate at this location and would appear conspicuous on this hillside. In terms of compatibility with surrounding land uses and the landscape quality and the character of the surrounding area and the natural heritage of the area, as already assessed, the application would detract from the landscape quality and the character of the surrounding AONB and its natural heritage, and therefore the proposal is considered contrary to those parts of TSM 7 also. And overall then, to summarise in terms of policy CTY1, the proposal doesn't meet any of the cases outlined in CTY1 of PPS 21 in which a farm diversification proposal or tourism development will be permitted in the countryside, and no overriding reasons have been demonstrated to justify why this development is essential in this rural location, and therefore the proposal is contrary to policy CTY1 of PPS 21. There just in terms of policy CTY 16, sufficient detail has been provided in terms of the foul sewage to the site, and the proposal is considered to comply with that policy. In terms of access to the site, DFI Roads don't have any objections and are content that a safe access can be provided. In terms of potential flood risk, the site's not located within a floodplain, but there a portion of the laneway is within a predicted surface water flood area. Information has been submitted in that respect, and a drainage assessment isn't required. A maintenance strip has been provided adjacent to the water course in accordance with FLD2, and a small section of the water course is to be culverted for the access, which is allowed under FLD4. So overall, the proposal complies with PPS 15. So just to summarise, the proposal doesn't meet any of the cases outlined in CTY1 of PPS 21 in terms of farm diversification or tourism development. The proposal is contrary to CTY 11. It doesn't involve the reuse or adaptation of an existing building, and it doesn't meet the exception where permits a new building because the proposed development is for more than one building. The proposal is not appropriate to the character of this location and would have an adverse impact on the AONB. The proposal doesn't meet circumstance B of policy TSM 5. It's not located at or close to an existing approved tourist amenity. The site is located within the AONB, but this is not considered to be a tourist amenity. It doesn't meet criteria C, G and I of TSM 7 of PPS 16 as it doesn't provide appropriate means of enclosure and would detract from the landscape quality and the character of the AONB. The proposal would, as a result, due to the stark nature of the landscape here, appear as a prominent feature in the landscape. It lacks long established boundaries and can't provide any closure for the proposed buildings, and the access would also be visually obtrusive in the landscape, so the proposal is considered contrary to policy CTY 13 and CTY 14 of PPS 21 and policy NH6 of PPS 2 with regards to the AONB, and refusal is therefore recommended for the reasons that are set out in the planning report and here on the slide as well. Members in front of you, thank you.
Thank you for that, Laura. We have Aidan Begley, agent. Is Aidan with us here? Aidan. Great, and thanks for attending the meeting today. And you probably heard me saying earlier, you have 5 minutes to address the meeting, and I'll say to you about 4.5 minutes or so, whenever your time's coming near to an end. If you can just turn your mic over towards you there and switch it on that button. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Hello, everyone. Basically, I just want to speak in support of the application here today. This proposal is for a farm diversification under PPS 21 CTY 11, whereby planning permission will be granted for a farm or forestry diversification proposal where it has been demonstrated that it will run in conjunction with the agricultural operations on the farm and refers to 4 criteria which should be met. The design access statement accompanying the application highlighted how this proposal satisfies this. Policy CTY 11, paragraph 5.47 states, this policy aims to promote forms of diversification that are sustainable in the countryside, including suitable tourism and agri-tourism schemes, also to satisfy CTY 1. Diversification proposals therefore should be of a scale and nature appropriate for the location and be capable of satisfactorily integrating into the landscape. This site is elevated rural farmland on an incline within the AONB. In terms of integration, this proposal will not have any negative impact on the landscape character, as the pods are of such small scale and design that they will integrate sensibly into the surrounding area. The rising land beyond the site will provide a suitable backdrop for integration. If the committee look again at the images which were displayed, taken along the Carrick-Keane Road, you'll note that the existing farm grip not only appears in the foreground, but also how small the existing farm buildings look when viewed over a long distance. The same applies when you factor in the small size of the pods. They will be very hard to see over a long distance. To give an indication of scale, the large agricultural building on the farm measures 31 metres by 22 metres by 8 metres high, whereas the pods only measure 8.5 by 4.5 by 3.8 metres high. I'm sure the committee would agree that the small scale of the pods will absorb into the landscape. The applicant would be happy to revise the roof finish and provide green grass roof, which would aid integration. Given the small size of the pods and the backdrop of the mountain, this proposal will visually integrate into the surrounding landscape and therefore comply with PPS 21, CTY 11 and 13. In regards to refusal reason TSM 5, PPS 15, the proposal is not located close to or an existing approved tourist amenity. Well, we were aware the precedence has been set by the planning approval LA 11 2019-0081F, which is for a similar proposal of 3 pods under farm diversification, not located at a tourist amenity. Now, the proposed pods are located adjacent to what is an historic Bully House, which is a building on this farm. And the reference is TYR 005052, which is a tourist attraction in the area. The proposal is located at the foot of Mulla Carpta Mountain, which is a designated hiking route recognised by Tourism NI and Spare and Outdoors Partnership, and that is an amenity in itself. Access by foot can be achieved from the side of this mountain, and this in turn links all mountains within the Sperrin Range for hiking and mountain biking, which are the 2 activities that take place on it. There are a range of other tourist attractions within close proximity of the site, as previously stated in the accompanying design access statement. The Sperrin Mountains is a popular area for hiking, and with the proposal sited at the foot of the mountain range, makes it ideal location for hikers as they can access the Sperrin Mountain Range without travelling by car. Refusal reason 3, CTY 11, PPS 21, in that the proposal development is for more than one building and new buildings are satisfactorily integrated within an existing group of buildings. As previously stated, LA 11 2019-0081F was granted approval for 3 buildings for a similar proposal. In regards grouping with existing buildings, the committee should be aware that this proposal will be run in conjunction with an active farm business, and the buildings have been cited so they don't affect the daily activities on the farm and to ensure there will be no issues in regards to health and safety, odour, noise, or general nuisance from daily farming activities. The pods will be located southeast of the large conifer plantation, which will aid integration. There will be a visual linkage between the farm group and site when viewed along the Carrick-Keane Road. Many thanks to the committee. That's all I have to say. Many thanks to the committee for allowing me the time to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Aidan, for your presentation. Okay, so I'll hand it over to any members. Has any questions here for Aidan? Councillor Mooney, go ahead.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks to Aidan for presenting the committee. It's fair to say, I suppose, that in this application, TSM5 would be the primary policy, and in my mind, and suppose all the rest would fall in if you're looking at that on that basis. But prior to coming here today, we were served with a couple of PAC reports, and I had a chance to read them before I came on, during the one. But one of them especially is 2021 0182. It's delivered this year in June 24. It's nearly more than down case, but it was again about grappling pods, and essentially, I'll read out a bit of it. Only just on the record, paragraph 15. The site is within a wider area which is utilised by tourists. To satisfy the policy requirement of TSM5, the accommodation units must be provided at or close to an existing or approved tourist amenity. Next paragraph, one of the examples given in this application was Tollymore Forest Park. Now, reading under it, the Commissioner cites the main entrance and elements which make provision for visitors, such as parking, toilet facilities and campsites, which may be considered as a tourist amenity element to this forest park itself, are over 2 kilometres from the proposed development. The Commissioner then says this is not at or close to the appeal site, full stop. Now, I'm going to go into the pack now that we were given, and the pack tells us that tourist amenity sites that you provided, it says cited by the agent, are number 1, Ulster American Folk Park, 17.5 miles away, tourist amenity. The Alley Conference Centre, tourist amenity, 13.5 miles away. And Craigan Tourist Amenity Visitor Centre, 20 miles away. Barntop Farm, 8.5 miles away. Beemore Stone Circles, 24 miles away. Dava Forest Park with mountain bikes, 23 miles away. Graham Park Estate, 12.5 miles away. And the other ones are put down as assets, which I think we're not supposed to take into consideration. So based on that, based on TSM5, and based on what that recent Commissioner's appeal has stated, reasonably speaking, do you think that those citations that you have presented would be reasonably close by as tourist amenities towards location site? Thank you.
Well, I suppose it depends on the type of activity that you're going to do at the location. Hiking, a lot of them other activities or amenities that you have referred to there, they have various different types of outdoor activity. But the Sperrin Mountains, there is an actual registered hiking trail which takes in each of the peak, where you can set off walking and go across the mountain range. So there is nothing there, but the mountain itself, there is a lot of people who come there and would hike and walk that regular. But just to say, the mountain itself, till the locals, is an amenity for that purpose.
Go ahead, Councillor Mooney.
Thanks for that reply, and I do appreciate it. But my difficulty as I'm looking at this is that the test itself is at or close by the location site. Whether you consider it amenity or not, I think the difficulty is here is that you're looking to locate these camping pods, but all the amenities are so far away that you couldn't reasonably consider them close by, at or close by to the location site. And that's the difficulty I have. And in my mind, whether I'm seeing it right or wrong, the other elements, refusal reasons, integration, etc., falling behind that. But reading through that PAC judgment, I feel constrained. The fact is that it seems to me that the constraining element of this is that the examples that you have provided to the officers and brought before the committee are so far away that you couldn't reasonably come and say that they're at or close by to the location site for these camping pods. Thank you, Chair.
Aidan, would you like to respond to that?
Well, just to reiterate what I said, it's the type of activity you're going to. Some of these other things have outdoor activity, outdoor play areas and stuff like that. There's nothing that exists there. You're arriving here to the mountains and you're walking across the mountain range till various, other parts, and returning again, so there is nothing probably that I'm aware of anyway on the mountain rather than the mountain itself. The mountain biking and the hiking is the two activities that you plan to go for,
Councillor Bennett. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. And I would just like to tease out a wee bit more. It is stated in the application that this site is adjacent to an archaeological site and a monument, Billy House. Can you give us a wee bit more information about that? Especially about the house and, would it be an area of interest?
Go ahead.
Well, for anyone, I suppose, a bully house, I'll read out here that what a bully house is. It's basically in ancient Ireland, a bully house was a single room dwelling built of stone in a remote mountainous area. It was a simple dwelling with a heather roof, small window and a doorway. Small farmers who had herded their cattle from the lowland to a field of summer grazing would have occupied these, in adverse weather. So in terms of linking it with other buildings on the farm, this is another building which is on the farm. And if you look at the slide again, you'll see that the pods are sort of in close proximity to it, and I would be of the opinion certainly that they do group with it. Thank you.
Councillor Logan, anything else? Any further questions for either?
Myself
Go
online,
ahead.
Paul Gallagher.
Go ahead, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking at the photographs that's in the report, and hearing the presentation. It's very hard to sort of reconcile that these buildings will not be conspicuous, and I'm just wondering, how you could say that these will be integrated. I would have probably liked to have seen some sort of plan of what the applicant was talking about, in the sense of they won't be seen. So I'd like to hear a bit more on that, because the report's saying, these are going to be exposed in an area of outstanding natural beauty.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Well, first thing, I know it is an area of outstanding natural beauty, but I think what the committee needs to be aware of, these are on the incline which leads up to which would be the more mountainous area. They're still on agricultural land, which, the applicants there, you can confirm this is grazed actively. So it's not what you would envisage to be really protected area. I know sometimes these things are identified on maps, but if you go out and look at it, it is a grass area. And I think even the biodiversity checklist and report that was sent in would verify that. Now, in terms of what the councillor had said there, in terms of plans and stuff, now we did try to do an image, like a visual photograph, but when you introduce this pods into the image, because it's taken from the vantage points along Carricane Road, you wouldn't even see them on the screen up there, because they are so small in regards to the size of the mountain and the buildings in the foreground.
Thank you. Councillor Gallagher, do you want to come back with anything else there?
Yeah, look, a lot of the objection reasons are around the character and appearance, and I'm just not convinced, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else online that has any questions for you, Councillor Devine?
Thanks, Chair. I wonder, could the agent give us any information in terms of the value that they might bring to the economy, particularly when they're sited in a rural area?
Well, I don't have, as at the minute now, the business case study hasn't been done on it. We would have no figures at this, but going on previous applications and approvals that we would have been successful with, now they would bring in a substantial cost in what is a deprived area, being a Habrack, you know, and they would basically bring in a substantial amount. But as I say, in this specific one, there has been no case study done on that.
Okay, Councillor Devine. Councillor Logue.
Sorry, just one more question. We're talking about farm diversification here, and because of the change in nature, I suppose, of farming, etc., etc. But have you any evidence that you could give us that would show that this diversification would help sustain the farm in the long run?
Yes, well, we can get in, you know, as I say, we can do a business case on it and get that sent into planning if that's, you know, we wouldn't have it to hand now, but certainly we can get that through if it helps make a decision.
Chair, if possible, could I beg your indulgence to ask another question? Just
Go ahead, Councillor Gallagher.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I was just wondering, could the agent tell us, was there any consideration given to moving these pods closer to the farm buildings themselves? You know, it's saying it's 450 meters away. Was any consideration of putting them closer?
Well, the applicant, you know, identified this site, and then I suppose whenever you, as I said in the statement there at the start, you know, when you factor in the likes of health and safety, it is an ongoing farm. He does use part of that land for grazing, and then you have the odour, the noise, and all the issues that come with farming. We felt that it was probably better up next to the Bully House as well, because it is an attraction as well, which people come to see. So we felt that it was better sort of located in that area, and then that also gives access leading on up to the mountain range.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Gallagher?
Well, I'll accept it as an answer. Anyway, thank you.
Is anybody else online there that wants to ask anything? No, thanks. That's all the questions for you, Aidan. Thank you for attending today. Okay, members, has anybody got any questions for our officers, please? Is anybody online? Any questions for officers? Okay, there's no questions, officers. I believe Philip may want to address this. You're okay. She's on this. Okay, Maura just wants to clarify a few things here, please.
Yeah, members, there's just a couple of wee things that came up. I thought they might have come up through questions, but just to highlight, you know, in terms of some of the answers to the questions, in terms of you know, the quality of the LMB and the visual impact, the use isn't important in terms of the fact that it's the land use being a farm or not a farm. You know, it's what we can see in terms of that. And I note that there is no information to demonstrate how it would integrate within the landscape. You know, we don't have drawings to show that, so that hasn't been helpful. And obviously, you know, officers have given their view in terms of the fact that we don't think that it would. And that's why you have the 3 reasons for refusal there. So I just wanted to highlight that point. And voting really unless, Suzanne, you have anything extra to add?
Just really in terms of the PAC decisions that you were just given there. So one of those decisions is referenced in the officer report. Okay, the 2019 case, or the PAC references in 2019. I think the decision was May 2020, and that supports the assessment of the application under TSM 5. Okay, as a self-catering unit. It also provides an assessment in terms of close by, and then the second PAC decision, which was referenced by the objector, which Councillor Mooney has referred to, further goes into the assessment of close by. So just wanted to reaffirm those decisions with you as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So, members here, we have a recommendation to refuse this application. Just pass over to yourselves if there's any final comments or wish to make a proposal on this. Thank you.
Chair, I'm happy to make a proposal.
Go ahead, Councillor Gallagher.
Chair, I propose that we go with the officer's recommendation. I think that it hasn't been met, and this will be very conspicuous, very exposed in an area of outstanding natural beauty. I'm all for diversification, and people trying to make a point in the rural areas, but I think that this goes just a step too far. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so just your proposal there is to accept the officer's recommendation. Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. I'm content to second that proposal. As outlined in my own remarks earlier on, I don't think that I'm sympathetic to anybody who comes in those applications, but unfortunately, from the evidence I've heard, those the 5 refusal reasons haven't been met by the evidence I've heard, so I'm content to second Councillor Gallagher's proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, so we have a proposal and seconder there to accept the officer's recommendation. So I want to go to the vote on this, please, Mona.
Thanks, Chair. So this is item 6, members' proposal to accept the officer's recommendation. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Or Mara.
Thank you. Alderman Neary McMorris. Thank you. Alderman Janice Montgomery was.
Did I abstain?
Yeah, thanks. Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Caroline Devine.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Fleming. Thank you. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson. I think they left the meeting. Councillor Fergal Leonard. Thank you. Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Mooney.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Pat Murphy left the meeting. Councillor Martin Riley. And Councillor Grace McNeilis. Thank you. It's unanimous, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, members, thank you for discussion on that. Before we go on to the next item, I propose that we'll take a 10-minute break, please. Thank you. Okay, members, we're going to make a start in our meeting again. Just want to stay at this stage. We're going to move an item in the agenda. It's item 12, H30 section 76 legal agreement. We need to cover this item before we go into agenda item 4. So we'll be moving now into confidential, please. And can I have a proposal for that, please? And Councillor Boyle and second by Councillor Mooney. And with respect, I'll have to ask the people in the gallery just to move outside and we'll come and get you.